Okay, well, welcome to our monthly webinar. Um, we do these every month, typically on the third Thursday of every month. Um, this month, we're fortunate enough to have a client of ours on to talk about all kinds of stuff. Couple housekeeping things. We are recording this, so if you have to drop off and want to come back, it'll be recorded. We'll put it on our social media, YouTube, we'll email it out, our website, etc. If you have questions along the way, we do try to answer what we can. There's a Q&A at the bottom. You can drop the question in there, and we'll either answer it as we go or we'll wait to the end and try to pick those up. If you don't know, I'm Owen Bondurant. I'm a partner in Independent RX. I'm also an owner of two pharmacies with my partner Tim Clark. I will let him introduce himself.
I'm Tim Clark. I'm a pharmacist. I've owned about 30 stores with Owen's dad and now Owen. We started this consulting practice about 10 years ago to kind of help people do what Fady did, which is buy and operate a pharmacy. Uh, and then at the end of it, obviously, we help people sell it, which not only did we help Fatty buy buy the pharmacy, he was a client for our accounting business. So we did his bookkeeping and his tax, and then I got to help him as he was transitioning to try to sell the business, which he did successfully this year.
Yeah.
And nice to have you, sir.
Thank
Would
you
you
so
like to
much.
introduce yourself?
Yeah, yes, I would. So my name is Fady Iskander. I am not a pharmacist. I don't know much about pharmacy. Um,
Not true. That's
What you're going to
definitely
learn is
true.
not
Like
true.
if you're gonna be on here, you got to at least tell the truth. You know a lot about
right.
pharmacy.
Well, you think I do, but anyway.
I know you do.
But I am seriously, I'm not a pharmacist. I'm an engineer. I work in oil and gas. Um, And I was lucky enough to cross paths with Owen and Tim about 5 years ago. Actually, a little bit longer than that, but
Yeah, a
you
little
know,
bit.
worked together 5 years ago, and it was an awesome 5 years. It was definitely fun. I'd do it again in a heartbeat. Um, and I was asked to come here today to kind of talk about the last 5 years. So I'm all yours.
Well, that was as
Thank
that was
thank
as
you.
good a
That's
introduction as I could have gotten in terms of what we're going to go through. So
Yeah.
let's start from the beginning. What made you start thinking about owning a pharmacist, and kind of
Yeah.
how did that kind of get started?
That's interesting. So my wife is a pharmacist, and Um, ever since we got married some 20 years ago, she's always wanted, to have a pharmacy because we originally we didn't come here. We come from the Middle East. And over there uh it's all people own their pharmacies. So we've always wanted to have one. And then we moved here. We said, like, why can't we start one here? But we were always too busy because she worked full time and I have a corporate job. And I remember chatting with Owen, like it was about what, 2 years or something like that. It was chatting with Owen.
Yeah.
Yeah. But we always wanted to own a pharmacy. And we didn't know where to start or how to do it or anything about it. And on top of that, we were too busy, so we've never gotten around to it. But then COVID hit, and if you do know anything about oil and gas news, the price per barrel of oil went from like 50, $60 a barrel to negative 37. Like you buy a barrel of oil, they give you $37 on top of it. So I found myself laid off at that point, 2020. And I said, well, this is it. I have all the time in the world now. And so, I called you and I called Tim and I'm like, okay, now's the time. Let's buy a pharmacy. That's it. And we did that summer, right? Like, or that fall, right?
Yeah.
Um, So that's why I bought the pharmacy is because I finally had time and nothing better to do. So, but highly recommend it. Like I really enjoyed the ride. It was definitely worth it. Uh,
So we kind of, searched and we came across this store.
yeah,
Maybe take us a little bit through. All right, the buying process. You had some good points
yeah,
in there, around the valuing of it, the mix of the business, that
yeah. So
um
there's a couple things I maybe that I've learned, and this is, I haven't thought of this before, but it just came to me now. Buying and selling pharmacies, what I learned is it's a club, actually. Like it is. It's a club. It's
it
not
is
like,
a little bit.
right? And I like to think of myself as in the club right now, and that's through you and Tim. Um, so you can go online and search businesses for sale, and you'll see a ton of pharmacies for sale and all that stuff. But those are kind of outside of the club kind of thing, right? Outside of the club, meaning they're not vetted, there's no one to vouch for them, pursue at your own risk, kind of stuff like that. But then if you want to buy a pharmacy, then you go through proper channels like Independent RX, and I'm sure there's, one or
Yeah,
two other
there's
ones,
others. Yeah.
right? But all these people know each other, and I didn't know that. Right. And not only do they know each other, but they also know like all the vendors and all the banks and everything like that. So I think, getting into this space because I was working with you guys, I had it easy. And I didn't realize that at the time. I learned it after. Um, so we found this store and we started looking at it. The trick when you're looking at a store is how to evaluate it because everything is worth something, right? It's just a matter of how much, right? Um, so the things that I looked at, and again, no background in pharmacy, but I do know a lot about business. Um, so if you're buying a business, does the pharmacy or not, the only thing you need to prove up is how much revenue it's making, the top line, right? If you can prove that this business is making X amount of dollars, then that's a given that okay, I have X amount of dollars. You can control the costs accordingly. That's up to you. So it doesn't matter what they're paying. So if they're losing business because they're making $1 million and spending 1.2, you look at it and you can control that and decide if it's worth it or not. Can you spend 800 instead of 1.2 and make it work? So those are like this is like the number one thing to evaluate is how much money it's making, right? And then number two thing is this sustainable? Like, is this like a one-off? Did they have just like a good year? Because usually people evaluate on the previous tax returns,
Yep.
1 year, right? But if you look at history and try to understand what services they provide and try to really understand it. And it's okay to ask. Like we had issues with that when we were buying, right?
Yep.
Like they
Yep.
couldn't really explain where the money was coming from. I had to I had to dig into the financials, right? And then the third thing is if if it passes your smell test, that doesn't necessarily mean it's going to pass the bank's smell test. All right. So you have to convince the bank uh, that this is a good
Yeah,
buy.
yeah. And when you're trying to convince a bank, I mean, it's two things that are really
Yeah.
important to the bank. The first thing is the cash flow of the business you're buying, right?
Right.
Because that means that you've got a business that can afford to pay the bill,
Right.
right?
Yep.
The your monthly number. Now, the other thing is we're looking at the guy who's buying it or the person who's buying or the entity that's buying
Yeah,
it. Now, the thing that was really odd in your circumstance was you're not a freaking pharmacist. You've never owned
that's
a
true. That
pharmacy.
was actually one of the issues I had.
I mean, that
I just
was
remembered.
probably the biggest hurdle. I
Correct.
mean, however, like it or not, because you're married to a
Yeah,
pharmacist, I think you got a little bit of cred.
I did. I that got me that got me an interview.
Right?
That got me an interview. I remember Owen was telling me like, look. like this bank, and I don't know if I'm allowed to say the name of the bank, but but anyway, they were okay.
Doesn't matter.
Yeah. So Owen was telling me like this is the largest bank that funds pharmacy buys and sales and stuff like that. And they simply do not fund non-pharmacists. Like it's just they don't do that. And I think Owen had to call the VP and tell him like, look, just talk to the guy. Just talk to him. Right. And sure enough, he called me. I remember one night at like 8 p.m. or so, and he called me and we started talking. He was like, "Why do you want to buy a pharmacy?" And I'm like, because I got laid off and I know." And we started chit-chatting and then we ended up talking for an hour. And I thought it was just a friendly call. And then at the end of the call, he said, "I'm approving you for the loan. I think you're pretty good. And I think even though you're not a pharmacist, I think you can run it well. We'll use the fact that your wife is a pharmacist and just do that." So that was one hurdle we had to go through. Um, which brings me to a point like understand your numbers, right? Like
Yeah.
Yeah. But still in lending, I mean, a lot of it is okay. We've got the first obstacle is okay. You got to have money coming in. We've got
yeah,
to we've got to trust you, and then it's nice to see that back in that time when you got approved. I mean, that was still based upon feel. I mean, they just felt really comfortable that this crazy engineer,
yeah,
um, who really doesn't know anything about
that's true.
pharmacy,
I didn't
we're
know anything.
we're gonna go give you a pile of cash.
Yeah, yeah. That was
And
so what helps is that if you bring them like an opportunity, right? Like if you can explain, and usually this is on the seller to market their business and say, okay, this is what I'm selling and look how good it is and look how great it is. But if the seller doesn't do a good job there, and if you truly believe that this is a good opportunity, then you have to do it. And that's what happened in our case. Like the seller did not have their finances in order, like their financials. They didn't have any of
it was
that.
a mess.
It was a mess.
Well, and Fatty, weren't they doing, some things that that were very profitable that
Yes.
even when you bought it, you knew that that probably wasn't going to continue. So there was
There was
there
some risk.
was some known risk buying this pharmacy.
That's true. There was risk. And again, because I'm not a pharmacist, I didn't really understand how much risk was involved in it. All I knew is like, we'll figure it out, just like any other business. And we did, right?
Oh yeah.
We did. We did.
Yeah, and you mentioned earlier about the numbers in the bank. I think part of the reason that was so successful, your conversation is in due diligence because the seller didn't have their stuff. We basically had to rebuild everything.
Yeah. The bank basically
And
said no when they saw the package, right?
so we knew the numbers inside and out. Um,
Yes.
and, you know, when you know that, it comes off as, well, doesn't come off as being confident. You are confident because you know what you have.
Right.
And,
We had to
going back to your
rebuild
point,
their,
you knew the revenue, you knew the risks.
yeah,
You didn't totally understand those risks. We tried to tell you,
you
but
did.
we
Actually,
did know that there was a chance that, hey, some of this stuff won't be sustainable long term, but hey, even if it goes away, here's what we have. We did know
right.
that,
We did know that. Yes.
which was extremely important in those conversations with the bank and just making the decision to buy it, I would say.
Right. No, I agree with that. I agree with that 100%. There was risk, and we knew the numbers inside out because we rebuilt their their package. Like we did it for them, right?
Yeah.
Uh, like
Yeah.
basically, they sent us a year's worth of bank statements, and we had to rebuild the
Which the
whole.
great part about that is we saw all the ins and outs.
Yes,
So, I
we
mean,
saw
from that standpoint, it was very transparent because we could see everything. It was
exactly.
great.
Yeah.
Um,
So
so you buy this thing then.
yeah.
So then what?
Oh,
So how, you know, what were the challenges, let's say, in the first, I don't know, six to
yeah.
12 months?
So I'll actually break it down a little bit smaller than that. So the first um month, everything like you or I did not pay attention to what the business was doing. I was literally just trying to understand. right? I, took a step back and understand. But what I was trying to do is get everything migrated over, licenses and insurance contracts and stuff like that. And it is overwhelming. However, I did have a good coach. Uh, I had Heidi,
Yeah.
uh, and she works for Owen. Um, and she actually made a roadmap. Like I think it was like, I don't know, 50 different line items. And each one of them has, okay, and this week you have to do this, 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 and this is how to do them. And then second week you do this, this, this. So if you just follow that roadmap, I think things, and I was really overwhelmed because every application I had to do was at least 20, 30 pages. But after you do two of them, you pretty much figure it out
Yeah,
and you
same.
can do it. Yeah. So that was the first challenge, just getting all the licenses
Yeah.
and stuff like that. I
Yeah, it's
was,
hard.
yeah, and then you got to figure out AR, like whose money is what. I think we were lucky in that case, because I was doing the like the all the splitting and all that stuff. It was fairly transparent. Um,
Yeah, and I think in the buy process,
yeah,
we weren't completely sure the sellers would,
yeah,
be responsive. And so I think we were like, hey, we need to be the ones in charge of this.
correct,
Yeah,
correct,
which was, in some cases, you know, if you're buying, you want to be, you're using their licenses and insurance contracts, so you need to have control over that
correct,
the
correct.
best
So
that you can.
yeah, so the first, I would say, few months, it was all about that. One of the issues we had, and I think would be common in many like pharmacy sales, any business in general, but usually for pharmacies is the employees, right? They're scared, they're nervous. Um, even if the change is for the better with a new owner, they don't necessarily see that. So you have to be extremely comforting. And there's a lot of times there's a power struggle, right? I
Yeah.
remember the very first day I walked in as the new owner. I won't forget this. One of the employees said, "When you're not here, who's in charge?" And I said, "What are you talking about? We have a PIC. It's called pharmacist literally in charge." And I was told,
That was a good answer.
yeah. And I was told, okay, here's my resignation. Right?
Oh my goodness. Yeah,
That
I
was like
forgot
the
about
very
that.
first day. Right. So, yeah, there's a lot of stuff like that you can't really like tabulate it or like say, okay, this is going to happen or this is not. But there's always going to be these nicks and knacks.
On the employee side, you made a really strategic thing of really just trying to be yourself and earning their trust, didn't you?
Yes. Yes.
And
There's
then and then even as you came full circle to looking at exiting, that ended up being probably the hardest thing for you was because of how
was.
much you appreciated that staff, isn't it?
That's true. That's true. I mean, there was a lot of tears when we sold on both sides, on our side and their sides, because we did really run the place it was a family business. We were all family. Um, when we choose people to be part of our business, we really are accepting them into our family and we treat them as such. And it's not easy to find people like that. Like we struggled with hiring and creating a team, and then towards the end we got really good at it. And we don't always hire for skill, right?
Hmm.
Like
And,
Yeah.
and they were very protective of making sure that when you did bring somebody in, that they fit, right?
absolutely.
Like, or I think even when you're going through the transition, somebody was leaving, and they're like, "No, we're not going to replace them yet."
Yes, that's true. That's exactly true. So we hire for attitude and culture, right? Skill is not necessarily our number one hiring point because we if as long as if they have good attitude, that means they're coachable, then you can teach skill. Like you can you can groom them. We've had technicians that we've hired as literally tech trainees. In less than a year, we've promoted them like 3 or 4 times, right? Like if somebody's giving you good work, then you have to really, really, really take care of them. And and my advice to anyone that is running a pharmacy is pay your staff adequately. The extra dollar an hour or $2 an hour or something like that will come back a lot higher if they're worth it. Like if they are really worth it. Because um good employees, they're the backbone of the business, right? I wasn't there like during those 5 years.
Yeah, how often did you, I guess explain to everybody, how often did you get to the pharmacy? Because you were like, what, 45 minutes away?
Yeah, it was an hour drive for me, and that was the only store we could find. Again, in the middle of COVID, nobody was selling, and that was the only one we could find at the time. So it's an hour drive, and then mind you that I do have a full-time job. I'm an engineer. I work in oil and gas. If you Google me, you'll know exactly where I work and everything. Um, and so I'm in corporate meetings pretty much all day. I'm busy. It's a full-time job, right?
Yeah.
So I would only have, if on a good week, I don't think I've ever in the 5 years went to the store more than 3 times in a week, and each time at most spent an hour. That like the best week was like a 3 hour week for me. And most of the weeks I just pass through 30 minutes. Hey everybody, how are you? I'll, buy them lunch. I'll come in and, what are your problems? How can I help? And they'll give me and they'll make me work, right? Like they'll give me like, hey, you're driving over there. Can you take this delivery because both of our drivers are out? And I hated it, but I had to I had to do it, right?
Yeah, yeah, but it created, I think, again, this trust with, being
Yes,
a remote boss, and
yes,
me and Owen have done the same thing, where you've got employees that you're not working with on a day to day. You've got to come in and out. Hi, how you doing? But it's all based upon trust, and then
correct.
like you say, treating them like family, and that they become your family. I mean, that's a fact. I
That is
mean,
true. You
you
know
got to
everything.
do that because they can work anywhere, and we really need to trust these people.
Right. And they really um treated the business as their own. And I love that. To the fact, like I remember once my wife was in the store on a weekend, and she was helping out because we were backed up, so we were helping out. And then a patient came to pick up uh, her prescription, and so my wife helped her check out, and then she asked about where is this person? Is she in today? I know she's the owner, and of course that person wasn't the owner or anything. She was a technician, and like that's how our people treat like
And the
everybody working. Like people think that these are the owners of the place, right? Even though the owner was the one talking to her. Like my wife was literally talking to her, but she's never seen her before, so she can't be the owner, right? But that's the level of of trust that our employees uh, that we had, right? Like people would see them as the owners of the store, and I encourage that.
when you gave them that the ability and the flexibility to act that way,
Yes, true. I empower them.
right? They can make decisions that they thought were right.
That's true. And sometimes they're completely out of bounds, and I wouldn't lose it, right? Like I would just coach them, say like, "Hey, look, you just did this. Hey, you just bought this drug that I can't return now, and it's going to sit on the shelf, and I'm going to lose, I don't know, $2,000 on it. Please don't do that." Right? Like so they would, yes, there are definitely avoidable mistakes by doing that. But you know what? The benefit that comes from empowering them is far
Yeah,
greater.
you empowered them. That's the word I was looking for. Yeah.
So
Um, and I guess because you did all that and built that staff and got the trust, I mean, you were able to shift and grow the business. And so I think it's interesting your philosophy on how you did that because I think it's significantly different than we see at most pharmacies.
Yeah. Well, I never micromanage. First of all, I don't have the time.
Yeah.
Second, they know more than I do. I would always tell them, like, look, I'm the stupidest guy in the room. Like, my job is to inspire you to do your job. That is my job. Your job is to actually get things done. But my like, so that was my role as the owner. I'm a cheerleader. That's what I did, right? I cannot fill a prescription. I don't know. If I know a name of a drug, it's because we either make money on it or lose money on it. I don't know what it does.
Well, that's interesting.
Yeah. So I disengaged them completely from the financial, right?
Yeah, you just let them do their job.
Their job is customer service,
Yeah.
right? And sometimes it's at a cost, right? And any successful organization, well, this is what I've learned over the years, is you have to have two opposite forces, a check and a balance, right? So they're trying to do everything they can to make the patient happy and the prescriber happy. Um, and even if it's at a loss, they don't care, right? And then my job is to calibrate, right? Okay, hold on. I get
Yeah.
it. You're making them happy, but can we do it this way? Can we do it that way? Can it, so my job is to push for cost savings and doing it better and more efficient. And their job is strictly to keep the patient happy. And we've had arguments all the time. It doesn't change the fact that, we're still one family, but, families argue, right?
Yeah.
And I would be very clear about that. Just the fact that we are arguing it doesn't, it's not a bad thing, right? We both have one goal is to make this business better. You're trying to do it through customer service, and I'm trying to do it through, financial efficiency. And we have to find that sweet spot. And I would explain that to them over and over and over again. So just the fact that I'm saying no, and a lot of times I would say no, and they'll still do it anyway, right? Like that's how much like, empowering we did, right?
Well, on the business side, I hear you saying that you're kind of making sure that we're making money, right?
Yes,
But that it
that was my
wasn't
job.
all the reasons that you were successful. I mean, you were really good at creating relationships outside of the pharmacy, business
Correct.
relationships that drove that opportunity for your staff to be outstanding customer service agents for you. So like that's also a lot different than what we see a lot of pharmacy owners doing. I mean, like usually we as pharmacy owners are like me. You're a pharmacist. I just got to do everything all day, and and I'm the most important person, and
Yeah.
blah blah blah.
Yeah.
But again, not only did you empower them, and you're checking them and working beside them, but can you explain a little bit of how you decided that I'm going to use my marketing smarts to take advantage of my staff who can
Right.
fulfill these orders?
Oh, absolutely. So there's a couple things there, right? First of all, um, no nobody likes a micromanager, right? Like even in my full-time job, if my boss micromanages me and tries to tell me everything, like I say, but if he lets me do whatever and then just comes and coaches me, I receive that better. So I implied that. Um, so I use that relationship, and again, I'm in sales. My job is to sell things to people, like in my other job. So I used to sell internally, externally, everywhere. So I used to like if sometimes there's issues, family members sometimes have issues, right? Like, oh, he took my charger, stuff like that. So my job was to manage those, right? And diplomatically and just make everybody feel happy. So that was one part of the sales aspect. The other part of the sales aspect was the external part, right? Like what you mentioned, like build relationships. So I'm not as smart as pharmacists, but pharmacists, when they have a pharmacy store, it's like you said, I'm the pharmacist, I'm the most important thing. But it's always been a build it and they will come mindset, right? That's not what I know about any kind of business, pharmacy included, like a pharmacy or any other business. For me, it's the same. Like I don't know anything, whether it's an oil and gas business or a pharmacy, you have to get in revenue. You have to increase revenue. So you have to do sales. And that was because I don't know anything about the pharmacy world. So my role was to go out and get sales, right?
I like to go back to what you said because I think as a pharmacy owner, these are the things that we don't understand. And what you said, and we sometimes think, I will build it and they will come,
Correct. That's what usually people.
and that's not that's just a little bit of it that you need to be. Let's say you need a good location, you need to be available, blah blah blah. But
That has
like
nothing to do with it.
you that's not enough for anything other
We
than if you want to go sell your business for less than you bought it, lose money.
I agree. So location, everybody says location, 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 whether you're buying a home or a business or especially a retail store, and I understand that. But in the pharmacy world, what I've learned is your location doesn't really matter. Sure, it does if you have the build it and they will come mindset, right? But if if you get a prime location, you're probably going to pay 10 times the amount of rent that you're going, going to pay. Um, you might get some business out, but if you are not in a prime location, you could hire two delivery drivers and get two, Toyota Camrys or Toyota Corollas and have them as delivery bills and still serve. Like we serviced our entire city from that little corner where we were, right? I'm not sure if you're telling them what location or whatever we're in, but we were literally on the outskirts of a city, yet we had patients all over the city. Our location stinks, but we were very, very busy and we compensated for that by doing lever. So there's things you can do, right? Um,
Well, and that's really because, again, like you went out and
that's the thing.
created a borderless business.
Correct. Borderless. That's the word I'm looking for, right?
Most of us when we're operating our pharmacy, we're thinking, I'm in the neighborhood. The neighborhood will come where,
Right.
that's just really setting yourself up for moderate success because you got to be thinking again, like you were okay to deliver it, right?
Absolutely. And we spent
It cost you
a
money.
lot of money on delivery, but it was worth it, right? Like a lot. We had two full-time. We started out with, when I took over the store, we had one driver that worked 3 hours a day delivery and doubled as a tech. When I exited the store, we had two vehicles, two full-time drivers, and both of them on overtime. And we were looking for a third, right? And why that is because of what you're saying. We didn't have the build it and they will come mentality. We had a get her done mentality, right? Like go get it, right? That they're not going to come to you. Most pharmacies advertise and market to patients. We do not. We never did. We never chased a patient down and said, "Hey, come into our store and we have like vaccinations or flu shots or whatever." Like we never ever did that. We always chase pipelines, as I call it, which are prescribers, right? So you go and you make one patient happy, whoop-de-doo, he tells another, you gain the patient. One patient, that's one script, two, five scripts a month. You make the
And I'm just
prescriber
sorry to
happy.
interrupt you again, Fatty, but like what you said is again another really key thing for us pharmacy owners, creating a pipeline.
Yes,
That you
I
just
call it.
said.
Yeah.
I mean, that is like that
Yeah,
that's how the engine goes. It needs a
correct.
pipeline, and it needs more than one, but
Absolutely.
a pipeline is better than a patient. And be careful what you're listening to what he's saying here.
Yeah.
I mean, he's not saying that I'm going to go after Mary Beth,
We've
unless Mary Beth's a doctor
I
or
was
owns
gonna
a
say,
clinic,
unless she's got
or
MD after
right, and
that.
that's as empty. So that's really what we did. We focused our efforts on marketing and advertising our services to prescribers. And it was a very simple pitch. Look, we will make your patients happy. And if they're, and we are under your wing, if we make them happy, they will bring more people to you, right? And that was the business model. We we sell that to prescribers, and it's a very low barrier to entry. Like, hey, just try us out. Send us one script, see how we do, right? And then we knock it out of the park, and he sends us another, and then another patient, another patient. Now all of a sudden, now you have a pipeline of patients and not a pipeline of scripts, and it's a totally different business model. Um, and yes, you can get a place in a good location and you can still have like if you're next to like all yes, you can do that. But we did not do that. We had patients from all over the city, and we compensated that by delivering to them, and we were constantly growing. We had no borders. We don't say we've never told somebody you're outside of a 10-mile radius, we're not going to deliver. We've never done that. We'll go we'll go deliver it to them, right? Because you're from that prescriber and that prescriber is good to us. So we will make his patients happy, we will make him happy, and we you replicate that and you have a number of prescribers. I've had prescribers call me at midnight, say my patient spilled their medicine, it's a compound and I don't know what to do. And I would wake up my wife at midnight because I can't compound. And I would drive her an hour to the store and make,
Wow.
she would compound the medicine and then we would go deliver it at 2 o'clock in the morning. That's how you make your prescribers happy, right? It's not easy, but if you want to grow it, that's what you have to do.
Interestingly, though, you say it's not easy, but that sales process, you did not overcomplicate.
No, that's very,
And I
this
think
the thing
people
is,
think they've got to have, a specific tailored brochure and they have to have a single tailored pitch and they have to,
I didn't have
and
any of that.
you introduced yourself,
Yeah,
you know, told them what you were about, built a relationship, and then delivered on it.
exactly.
And then you did that
Yeah.
hundreds of times.
Oh, absolutely. That's exactly what we did. We would walk in and speak openly, honestly, and tell them what we can do. And when they call us out on it, we actually did it with a smile on our face. And we would ask for feedback. If there's something that didn't like, we would continuously ask for feedback. Are we doing okay? We're doing okay. And, and then a lot of people in the beginning would say, yeah, you're doing great. We love you guys. And then we keep nagging them, give us some feedback. And so they are, at this point, they're forced to tell us about any little thing that they didn't like because we're nagging them for any kind of feedback, right? And we would take those small little things and we would fix it, right?
Yeah.
How often do you think you have to go out, or how often did you go out and market for your
Question.
business? Or, when did you decide to go get someone to help you market?
That's a good question. So in the beginning, I used to go out once per week, right? Because I didn't have time. I was working full time for some, I had a full-time job. So I
And,
would go
and I think I hear Owen tell this to our clients all the time: get out once a week.
once a week. I used to go out once a week, but that was really all the time I had. I didn't have any more time. And when that once per week was not enough to visit all our like prescriber friends, that's when I hired somebody. And I told them, look, your job is to be an extension of me, right? You don't need to sell anything. You just go in, make sure. And I took them and I introduced them to all the prescribers, and I told them I am paying him so he can come and bug you and ask you for feedback and make sure that things are going well and all of that stuff. So if you're ever tired of him, don't blame him, blame me, and call me, and I will tell him to say that. But his job was to visit each prescriber once per week, right?
Wow.
Um, so he would, and then whenever there's a new prescriber, like one of our other prescribers tells us, like, hey, I got this friend of mine who's also like a prescriber, and he's looking for a good pharmacy, and that's how we grew, right? Is that word of mouth, right? You do really good with one doctor, and then he's having lunch with another doctor, and the doctor says, "Oh, I'm so frustrated with the pharmacy I send this stuff to." He's like, "Oh, you should try these guys." All right. And that's how we grew. right? And I guess I'm not going to mention like how, but all I can say is it was significant growth. Um, and
Well, I think you can. I mean, how much, when you bought it to when you sold it, how much did the business grow?
oh,
It was a lot.
uh, four times maybe three, between 3.5 to four times. Like we're talking like dollars, right?
Yeah.
Dollars?
Yeah,
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah,
that's the only thing we can put in the bank.
yeah, like revenue wise, yeah. So revenue wise grew about 3.5 times in
Yeah.
4 or 5 years.
Hmm.
4 years. Actually, we've kind of like, yeah, about 4 years. We were about 3.5x, and then we just sold. So this year we would have been about 4x the revenue, four multiples of when we took it. And mind you,
Eh,
the revenue that we took it with had a lot of stuff that we shut down right off the bat, right? So
Um,
technically, it wasn't really good. So if
you
Probably,
were
like
definitely in the
that,
in the hole. After about 6 months, you were already
yeah,
on the course of rebuilding your own
correct.
pipeline.
Yeah.
You know,
So if I want to compare apples to apples, that I would say it would be more than double that. Like, so if I
yeah.
tell you 4x, it's like 8x,
yeah.
right? At a minimum.
Hmm.
Um, so
Yeah, that's amazing.
yeah.
And I mean, it's nothing fancy.
It's not. It's really not. And then some of the things, like little things that we've done is like, so when I hired a sales guy, and I was talking to Owen about this before, and I don't think he's already, I didn't know you didn't know this, but
I didn't. I love it though.
so, and this is again my sales hat, oil and gas thing, right? Again, I don't know anything about pharmacy. I just know sales and business management and stuff like that. So when I hired a sales
I
guy,
don't.
and the guy was like, "Do I have to wear like a uniform, like dress pants and dress shoes and dress pants and dress shirts?" I'm like, "You're not gonna wear any of that stuff." And he's like, "Well, what am I supposed to wear?" I'm like, "I'm gonna buy you a pair of scrubs." And he's like, "But I'm not a pharmacist or a technician." I'm like, "I don't care. There's no rule against wearing scrubs." All right. And that way, when you walk into any clinic or hospital or whatever, you're one of theirs, right? Like you're one of their own. What is the most common scrubs color around? It was like the dark blue or whatever. So that's what we got. Well, we got a couple different colors, but dark blue was the main one. So we started with, and he would walk into any clinic and nobody would tell him where you're going, where you're not going. Like you go talk to somebody, like, "Hey, where's Doctor X or Y or like where's this doctor? Oh, like she'll be back in an hour." And I'm sorry, hear you. Oh, I just wanted to talk to her about some stuff and all that stuff. And people accept them because they're wearing scrubs. Something so simple as presentation. But you walk in with a dress shirt, dress pants, and all of a sudden you're a
Well,
salesman. Nobody wants to be sold.
They put their guard up.
Right, true.
well,
Because
I think that all goes under, and I'm gonna have to steal this phrase from you, or prescriber friends.
oh yeah, they're friends.
You,
They're
you
not
know, if you use that in terms of how you're going to create your plan of how do you make friends with these people, one of the things that Scrubs does is, oh, now we're the same.
right.
You
That's
know,
exactly the point.
it's
Yeah,
much easier to look like we're the same. And I don't look intimidating coming in with Tim suit and tie.
correct.
Oh, Tim suit and tie doesn't understand us working people over here,
Right.
right?
Yeah. And there's a saying in my, oil and gas, and say no one likes to be sold to.
Yep.
Everybody likes to buy, right?
That's so true.
Yeah. If somebody's trying to sell me something, I won't buy it. But if they
Yep.
put it in front of me and just let it go, I might say, "Oh, this is pretty cool. I might buy this." Right? People like to buy. They don't like people to shove things down their throat. And it wouldn't be a bad idea for, some of the pharmacists to actually go take some sales training, right? Like
Yeah.
I teach this stuff in oil and gas, right? Because I've been doing it for so long. So the younger generations, I teach them. It's something called BAP, right? Business acquisition process. Like how do you acquire business? And I teach that. So I live by it, right? And these are little things from it. Of course, they don't say wear scrubs, but
Yeah, yeah, but they're little things to you because you've been doing it
yeah,
forever. But for people
right.
who have never been in a sales role, I mean, this is
Sales
great,
is,
just great advice.
yeah, sales is real.
Well,
Let me put it
well,
out.
the thing I really like about what you're saying is, again, for me, again, a pharmacist, going out and selling is scary.
That's true. I understand.
But like you're bringing up some things that make me not as scared to go out and do that because I'm not I'm not selling.
Yeah, you're not selling. Nobody likes to be sold.
I'm just out there to really make friends, be available, and I'm going to keep hitting you until I think I can get you, and I guess that's the sales thing. But um I think we think we have to be this old fashioned drug sales rep,
Yeah,
which there ain't anymore,
they don't work at like
Yeah,
right?
it doesn't
yeah,
work.
that doesn't work.
No.
Like, and really, like everybody who has a pharmacy has the hardest thing to get. I
Right.
mean, they've got a pharmacy system, they got inventory, they've got a location, and they can send any drug the next day to somebody.
Yep. That's exactly
If
true.
not the same day.
Yeah.
If not the same day, and they in the pipeline just, and you might think that, okay, I don't know,
Okay.
you're competing with other people who have pipelines, right?
Yeah,
But all I have to do is find mine, right?
correct. You need to find one pub, and there's a lot of ways to, and here's some free advice. So I'm sure a bunch of people listening to this are saying, you just make it sound so easy. You just walk in and talk to a prescriber and they'll just give you your work or whatever. No, it is not. It doesn't work that way.
Yeah.
And it won't. And if I'm coming across that it's easy, it's not. You will get rejected. You got to have thick skin, move on, right? Like go to the next one. There's more prescribers per capita than there is a lot of other things, right? There's a lot, right? So there's always someone else to talk to. So that's point one. Point two is, I'm sure you're thinking like, what do you talk about when I walk in there, right? And it's not, you're not going to go in and talk about the weather. You're not going to talk about what's the pitch? What's the catch? What's this thing, right? So, and I can, every store would be different, and every pitch or what we call value proposition, right? Like we had a value proposition. I'm not sure if your store has a value proposition, but if you don't, I suggest you get one. You make one. What is it that we do better than everybody else? And we are focused on this, and this is what, like, why, what's your pharmacy name? Let's call it Mr. X's pharmacy, right? Why Mr. X? Why should I come to Mr. X? And if you don't have a valid answer, then you don't have, then it's you're a build it and they will come. And
Yeah.
then you're in that category. We actually had a value proposition, right? And we would walk in there and we would explain it. What we deliver, right? We, for example, we saw some prescribers that actually work on the weekends, right? And we said,
Mhm.
okay, I am going to get you a driver on Saturday because we operate on Saturday, but we didn't have the drivers on Saturday. But they said, hey, okay, sometimes we need deliveries on Saturdays. I'm like, done. I'll do that. It costs me money? Sure, it does, right? But I'm making you happy, right? So that's my value proposition there. I solve one of your problems. So, your patients need their medicine on Saturday, and I'm the only guy willing to take the
Do that.
plunge and pay a driver to go do that, right? So, what is it you can offer, right? And and it takes a lot of thought, right? Like our value proposition was a multi-component. I'm not going to go into like all the details of it, but it revolved around customer satisfaction. We will do this for you. We will not fail you. And some of the things that we do are one, two, three, four. One of them was delivery. Uh, okay, here's some free advice. We used to walk into prescribers and we used to tell them, hey, I'm not here to sell you anything. You don't have to use me or any of that stuff, but I'm just interested to understand what do you prescribe the most, right?
Mm.
I'm just trying to understand information. And they're like, why? Well, this is the thing, right? You know about us, right? But if you were to send me anything, I'd like to know what your top 10 drugs are that you prescribe so I can stock them and have them on a drop of a dime. If you send me a prescription today, I can get it to your patient today because I have it in stock. And if not, it'll be the next day. So back to your point about same day or next day. So every prescriber that we worked with, we actually had a list of their top prescriptions, top 10,
Mm,
15 prescriptions, right? And we
wow.
would stop like, okay, this is for doctor this is for doctor that, this is for doctor this, right? And that way we never run out. We always have their prescription. So they call us and they want, hey, I got an emergency, blah, 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 this is this. I got you. And there's nothing better sounding to a doctor than I got you,
Yeah.
right? 'Cause they never call to say hi. They're calling because they're in and they have a problem or the patient spilled their medicine or, and they're gonna die, stuff like that, right? So the words I got you go a long way. That's how you do it.
This is, I mean, this advice is really, I mean, it's one of the better things I've gone through with someone. So thanks for everything you're sharing. Um,
Yeah,
so
we're gonna have to do a part two or
yeah,
something to
we
just
might
talk
have to.
about say sales
The
and growth
If you notice,
of
we're
your
not
business.
really talking about pharmacies. We're just talking about business, right?
Well,
yeah,
I
well,
don't know anything about pharmacy.
but we are, pharmacies are a business, are they not?
Yes,
Um,
they are. And that's how.
so the you do all of this, and you made no mistakes, clearly.
That's funny.
And at what point did you go, you know what? It might be time to, exit for a bit
Yeah.
here. Like what was in your head there? Because I think a lot of
Well,
people, have these emotions, right?
yeah. Well, first of all, I had a lot more hair, and I lost a lot of my hair. No, no. I was
Me too.
I was so again, I do have a full-time job, and I was getting really stressed between like even though yes, I was only there a couple days in a week and all that stuff, but let's be honest, the insurance companies, the PBMs and all that stuff, they keep us on our toes, right? And you're always nervous about what's going to change and what tomorrow is and all of that stuff. So there is some fair like there is amount of risk. There is some risk there. And in business, it's a 5-year cycle usually. You go in, you go out, 5-year cycle, you're golden. So I hit my 5-year cycle. Um, I wanted to exit because I was getting burnt out, and I think we've grew it enough to get a decent valuation on it versus what we put into it. And to be honest, I'm really looking for like a transfer out into somewhere else in the world and be like an expat in what I do in oil and gas. It is a lot like I think I needed a break, right? Like here
Yeah.
in the US, let's be honest, like it's the best country in the world and all that, but it's hard to live here, right? Like I come from a different background where we're spoiled, right? So I just thought I'd take a break and go recharge, take an international assignment, and then come back. And then ticking all the boxes on valuation. The valuation was good. Have we done a good job? Yes. Can somebody take it to the next level? I started to think that I didn't have the breath to take it to the next level, right?
Yeah.
If I wasn't working full time, I could have, but
oh yeah, you're not even saying the other part about it that you've got kids and a family to take care of
that's
and
true.
and they're part of our whole ecosystem of making sure that we're okay. And when
That's true. That's a
even
good point.
though like, and we got a question, why did you sell your business? Because you're 4 times more profitable than you started. But I mean, we want to. Here's the thing about when you want to sell your business, like you want to always make your business better as you own it.
That's true. That's
And one of the things I'll also applaud you on was as you were looking at selling, you did not stop, marketing and growing your business, and
absolutely not.
you didn't like miss a beat at like where
No.
think some of us become apathetic and like, oh, if you're apathetic, you probably should have sold your business then.
Absolutely. We like till the day, like till closing day, and like in our case, we actually closed and we didn't even get paid that day of closing, right? We got paid like the next day,
Yeah.
and we were still running it on that day. Like up until we actually closed, we were running it exactly as
You're
if
right.
we weren't
Nothing
selling
was
it.
happening.
Even after we sold it, we still felt like I didn't even want to sell. Like my heart didn't want to sell it. My brain was telling me, okay, we got to move on, all of that, right? But I did not want to sell it. And that's
Right.
what,
And that's true. I mean, you and I had several
yeah,
discussions where you were never desperate.
ever, ever,
You were never a desperate seller.
ever. I was not. And the only way to not be like to be, to be a confident and not desperate seller is to have a good business.
Yep.
Because if it sells, okay, good. And if it doesn't, great. Right? So
People will buy good businesses all the time.
absolutely. Right. They'll buy good businesses all the time. And if you know what? And if they don't, well, you got a good business.
Yeah.
So yeah, if you run a good business, you'll never be desperate to sell it. And the way we built ours by empowering our people, we would take vacations for 2, 3 weeks, right? Like I would go down to Mexico for a couple weeks and the stores like the staff don't even know that I'm on vacation. We wouldn't even tell them
Good.
like, hey, I'm busy this week, you know, and we'd do everything just like
So what was different from the time you bought it to when you sold it in terms of the process of going through a transaction?
uh so what do you mean going through a transaction like the buying versus selling? Like how
Yeah, I mean, technically it's still,
selling was
you know,
easy.
yeah.
Um like buying was a pain because the seller didn't have their things in order. Selling was easy because one, we weren't desperate, we didn't care. Two, all our financials, like you guys handled all our like our bookkeeping, our records, our taxes, all of that stuff. So everything was already in a file. It was already packaged. There was nothing, I didn't have to do anything, right? All I did was have to agree to the sale price that was all I had to do and answer any questions that people like, oh, how did you do this? How did you do that? Answer those. So selling was it was too easy, right? And we didn't even wait that long, right?
No, you didn't.
And the advice I would just kind of give people is that you're always trying to prepare your business to sell. Even if
Yes,
you don't want to sell, you have to
correct.
be prepared to sell, which does mean to have you're right. When we look at deals, Fatty, I mean, it's like usually like the financials are a mess, like the one you
Yes,
bought, and you're like, okay, I need that to start looking at it.
yes,
You've got to be organized. Not everybody is going to have the same benefits of growing or whatever, but you've got to. You're not going to be as valuable if you're not investing into your business up to the day you sell.
and
It's
it's
just
and
the
to
way it
get to
is.
that point, and something I've learned, and I don't know if we're going over the time, but I'll try to be quick. Um, One thing I've learned through the business, and I don't know how people do this because I certainly cannot. I don't know how you could be the pharmacist that actually works the bench and the PIC that's in charge of everything and SOPs and procedures and changes and all of that, and be the admin, like the HR guy, and run the payroll and pay off the wholesale, this and do. I don't know how we and still have a clear mind to think of what strategy and what value proposition, and then talk to the I don't see that as feasible, right? We had our own pharmacist, even though my wife was a pharmacist, she didn't work there. We staffed the pharmacy. Like your job is to keep this running,
Yeah,
right? And my job and my wife's job was to overlook any kind of technical workflow, like, oh, we're checking the prescription and then filling the prescription. Like all that workflow, I did. That's my wife's. She would.
And I would agree. Yeah, you can't do it all. So
You
you've
can't.
got to outsource some things.
Yeah.
Now, you both did work a full-time job, however.
Yes, we did.
So you
We
could
did.
be the pharmacist and work full-time and do one of the other things,
Correct.
but then that means you've got to outsource something,
Yes.
right? So you've got to kind of go, hey, what am I good at? What am I not good at? And find the pieces. You did a good job, right? You didn't do it all. You either found staff or services that
Absolutely.
filled
I
the holes.
outsourced everything.
Um,
Well, I won't say outsource everything, but I outsourced the important things and hired people. Like, for example, the moment I couldn't do the sales anymore, I
you
hired
hired
somebody
someone.
to do the sales,
Yep.
right? If I want my PIC or my pharmacist, RPH, whatever, to check 400 scripts in a day, then I can't tell her to do other things. I can't tell her to, oh, find this SOP or call on MTMs or like it's just not feasible, right? Like if you there's
Let's
a
think about
saying
that.
in another language that says if you want people to do what you're saying, then ask what's feasible. It's a messed up
Yeah.
translation, but you can't ask somebody to jump to the moon if he doesn't have a spaceship, right? Like it's unreal. So that was something that we understood and and that's what got us into a place where we can be very confident in selling it, right? Is because and transition was
Was good.
yeah, like
Yeah.
I literally handed over the keys and walked out and that was it. I didn't go back, right?
Yeah, she calls you sometimes, right?
He does,
Yeah.
but it's really not like anything
It's this or that, or
this or that. Why? Because the staff know everything, right? You
I mean, it
empower
just
them.
kept
It's their
operating.
business, right?
Yep.
Right. And basically, I was telling the staff, like, guys, y'all are fine. I just fired myself, right? But everything is the same, right? Nothing changed.
Uh,
That's funny.
we got to do this again. I think we're kind of starting to lose people.
Yeah,
But
My-
no.
yeah, but we really appreciate you taking the time. We may have to do it again, actually.
Okay.
Thanks for all the advice and your partnership and everything. And
Thanks for having me.
we'll talk to you soon.
Will do. Thank you so much.
For all those who are on here, we did record it. We'll get it out. Our website is independentrxconsulting.com if you want to come check us out. Thanks. Thanks again,
Sounds
buddy.
good.
Great.
Talk to you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye bye.